Gill Alexander. It's Kelly Bidlin. It's a numbers game live from Bar Canada at the D. Drew Dinsick, kind enough to join us for another segment. Remember his two podcasts, the NBC Sports Bet the Edge podcast, and, of course, Dinsick Classic, which he does with Andy Molitor, the Deep Dive podcast, which, by the way, should be on everybody's podcast list if you are a sports bettor. And what was it, Kelly, last week you were saying that you think Drew's getting a little feistier on that show?
Actually, I have a follow-up for that this week. Because last week, Patrick Mahomes finally got to the short shot, but I could sense the vibe growing from Drew over the weeks leading up to it that Mahomes should be priced as the short shot. Now he's kind of back in that second range. So, Drew, still value on Patrick Mahomes right now?
Only we had Drew to react.
What's funny to me is that the market is telling you Patrick Mahomes is likely to beat the favorite head-to-head this week. And yet, he is not the favorite in the MVP market. So, riddle me that one.
Riddle me this.
This is Drew. This is what you get.
Let me see if I can get a little bit of a concession from him. Would you agree? I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but just if you're thinking back to the weeks prior to Week 9 in previous seasons, does this strike you as the most up in the air MVP vote, or market that there ever has been at this point?
I guess yes, in the sense that there are realistically 5 or 6 players that could still win it this late in the season is pretty surprising. But I think that the handicap for the MVP right now is like wildly straightforward. If you want to know how you price this market, figure out the true odds of every one of these teams in the AFC to get the 1 seed, because the AFC 1 seed winner will get the MVP, in my opinion. I think Jalen Hurts is not realistically as strong a candidate as the market thinks right now. Yes, they have the best record right now, but his performance hasn't been anywhere close to the rest of these guys, and he's hurt. So I really, really think the Eagles are going to go through some lumps here in the month of November, and he's going to fall out of the mix. And Miami, KC, Jacksonville, Baltimore, even Buffalo and Cincinnati, they're all potentially your 1 seed in the AFC. And I think you can probably dink Trevor Lawrence a little bit. You can dink Tua a little bit, but any of those other guys gets the 1 seed. And I think that you can basically write it in pen that player is going to get the MVP.
Wow, that is not to buttress what Kelly was saying. You are supremely confident in that. So just give me a scenario here. So if the Dolphins win the AFC East, but do not get the number 1 seed, and Tua's stats are that much gaudier than everybody else's, he's not winning the MVP.
I don't think they're going to be that much gaudier. I mean, he hasn't. Let's
go with the scenario, Drew, for giggles.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think if there's no. I don't think anyone's created enough space statistically right now to get it over whoever does get the number 1 seed. Team wins are super important in this award, and when team wins is kind of a tie between a couple of teams that are at the top, like in years past, like the Chiefs and the Packers were both 1 seeds, and they then defaulted to stuff like interceptions, and Aaron Rodgers was throwing few interceptions, so he's the guy this year over Mahomes, or total EPA. Well, this guy's got a better total EPA this year, so he deserves the tie break. But that's usually when there's 2 pretty clear 1 seeds in each conference, and this year I don't think that's going to shape up that way. I think all the elite quarterbacks that you kind of see in the mix are AFC teams. I think whichever one of these teams rises to the top is going to be the pick. And the other reason I say this is because these teams all play each other. Like between now and Christmas, there's a round robin of almost every one of these elite teams in the AFC playing each other, except for Baltimore, by the way. Baltimore somehow has kind of skirts and doesn't have to play some of the elites. But the rest of these teams all have to kind of go head to head. And you're going to have these super high profile games like Sunday morning with Tua and Patrick Mahomes. And, if Mahomes beats Tua head to head in that spot, then that's going to be a tiebreaker, a mental tiebreaker for a lot of the voters when it comes down to it. And if the Chiefs are the 1 seed and the Dolphins are the 2 seed, but Tua has higher EPA per play than Mahomes over the balance of the season and fewer interceptions, people are still going to be like, yeah, but he lost when they played.
I think it's going to end up being the most scattered vote ever. And because let's just say we and so I'm not disagreeing with you, really, I don't think. But if we get away from betting market and odds for 1 second and we just step back and in our heads we say to ourselves, okay, who is truly the most valuable player in this league? I think we would say Patrick Mahomes at the top, right? He always is.
Yes.
Could win it every year.
Yes.
Some might very strongly argue, well, look, Joe Burrow. They're not good when he's hurt. They're all of a sudden great when he's good, when he's healthy. Someone like me might say, hey, look, Tyreek Hill, he's got, 44% of Tua's touchdowns and 41% of his yards, right? But you could say that. The truth is you could say that for all these guys, right? If the Ravens lost Lamar Jackson, if the Jaguars lost Trevor Lawrence, you can make that case for everybody. So even that doesn't really get you to where you want to go.
That's all true, and so that kind of, to me, defaults to Mahomes, right?
Maybe so.
If he's clearly, I think you poll everyone with a pulse, they are all saying exactly what you said, which is Mahomes is the best player in football. He's the most important player in football, and he's elevating a team of pretty lackluster wide receiver weapons, best tight end, but otherwise just not impressive offense to consideration for the 1 seed. That in of itself is pretty darn impressive, and I think for someone to take the throne from him, particularly coming off of a championship run last year, I think it's going to be tough. And if there's not a clear case backstopped by a team taking the 1 seed, finally knocking the Chiefs out of the 1 seed, right? Like this is, you kind of like historical arc. You got to kind of remember, like the Super Bowl has gone through Kansas City for 4 or 5 years? How many years in a row has the AFC Championship game been played in Kansas City? I know the Tennessee Titans had the 1 seed that 1 year, but they ended up losing in round 2, and it still goes through KC. So, if somebody comes and knocks the Chiefs out of that spot, then all of a sudden, you got a realistic case now on your hands that if you're the quarterback of that team, you deserve the MVP.
That is 5 years in a row.
But not all in Kansas City, or all in Kansas City?
All in Kansas City.
All in Kansas City. Wow. Okay, so real quick now, because we only have a few minutes, what have you bet thus far in week number 9?
Ooh, I got a little bit of everything this week. I could not stay away from all of the high-profile games. So I got a little bit of everything in all the games that matter. I took the Chiefs -2. I took the Ravens -5.5. I bet the Cowboys +3. I bet the Bengals -2.5, and I took the Saints early this week. I know that's not a high-profile game, but I have the Saints power rated almost equally to the Chargers, so I couldn't really square why that number was on the other side of 7 against the Bears.
You're with us on the Bengals. I like that right off the top. Is there one that stands above the fray of all of those, or are you just like them sort of all equal?
Cowboys, I think, and it's mostly just the idea that Hurts is not 100%. You look at the game plan last week, and the fact that they were basically taking a lot of the playbook away in terms of his rushing ability, and that I think is a problem against a Cowboys team where you're going to need that dual threat. And he obviously, to me, does not look right. There's something going on with the knee injury, and we know he's still had and complaining about the lingering issues with the shoulder. So he may be fine. He may be electric in this game, but if you're going to give me 2 teams that I power rate almost dead even, and you're going to give me 3 points, and you're going to tell me that I have the healthier quarterback, then I'm all for that. And I think the Eagles' defense definitely has more clear weaknesses than the Cowboys' defense does. I think both can be beaten with certain scheme and certain decision making, but the Eagles, to me, look like a little bit softer defense, and I think Cowboys' offensive line getting healthy is going to be a huge factor, because if you can kind of just keep the Eagles, pass rush at bay and give Dak Prescott time here, he's going to be able to continue to perform at a very high level and score. And Cowboys look amazing playing from ahead, so positive game state here I think really helps the Cowboys as well. So if I can only have one, I'll ride with the boys.
Okay, last 2 questions. One, Steve Fezzik has said to me that for him, this is the year of parity in the NFL. We think of that in college football, but he says in the NFL as well that he doesn't have one NFL team to be more than 6 points better than the average team this year. Do your numbers sort of reflect that as well, if not exactly?
No, I have a couple of teams that are in that range. I get what the underlying point I agree with. The kind of standard deviation So basically, like if you take the entire population of the NFL and you calculate how far away is one standard deviation from the average so far this year, it's narrower than it's been in about 5 or 6 years.
You're two above,
and that's
you're two above the fray. Are which teams?
I think the Chiefs still deserve at least 6 points against an average team on a neutral. And let's see who else I got up there. And I mean, number of teams right there. But right. Give me Dallas is number 2.
Thank you, Drew.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.